Hey everybody, happy Monday. My name is Ahmed Dents, Director of Venue Experience here at San Diego Repertory Theatre. And if you have been here before, welcome back to We Are Listening. If you've never been here before, welcome to We Are Listening. This is our online salon where we center and celebrate the Black experience of theater workers, performers, actors, administrators, everybody who identifies with some sort of melanin in this space. Thank you all for being here with us this evening. This is our final episode, and we'll get into why it is our final episode if you don't know in just a little bit. But I do appreciate all of you joining us tonight as we do sign off from this platform and say goodbye. I do really quickly want to do what we do and read our land acknowledgements. You can find this at sdrep.org/acknowledgement. There you go. Kevin's throwing it up on the screen for you. You can also see this beautiful map that has been done by Paul Cannon. San Diego Rep would like to acknowledge that the Lyceum Theater is built on the traditional lands of the Ipai Tipai Kumeyaay Nation, translated as the people who overlook the ocean from the cliffs. We also want to recognize their neighbors in the region, the Payacawichum, the Kalahia, and Capino peoples. San Diego Rep honors the over 20,000 current tribal members living in our area and elevates local elders past, present, and future. We respectfully acknowledge these community members for their tremendous contributions to our region and thank them for their continued stewardship. Again, you can head on over to sdrep.org/acknowledgement. Again, thank you for joining us as we wrap up this series. Be honest with you, not the way I would like it to wrap up, but nevertheless, it's wrapping up. And so we're going to do what we do in wrapping it up. As always, as y'all know, I do not do this alone. I want to bring a couple of people onto the screen with me. Of course, you know, my co-host who's always in the passenger seat, trying to keep me from crashing this thing off a cliff. Please welcome Director of Arts Engagement and in-house casting at La Jolla Playhouse, Jacole Kitchen. What's up, Jacole?
Hey, Ahmed. Hey, everybody. Welcome back.
And Jacole, we get to do what we have not done. I think we've only done it like maybe 2 times. We get to bring on our third partner in crime.
Yes, often referred to as our silent partner, but this brother ain't gonna be silent tonight. The only time I have ever had this brother on screen with me is when we had the artistic directors of our theaters. So welcome to this all Black space, Freedome Bradley Ballentine.
Hey y'all,
Freedome, what's up, dude?
What's going on? How you doing? This is what it takes to drag me out in front of the camera. The
last show, you about to be out. We have a lot of things to celebrate and to bid farewell to tonight. So we're so glad to have you here with us, Freedome. Yeah. It wouldn't be right without you.
Yeah, awesome. I'm glad you can make it, man. I threw you on the artwork to force you. I threw you on the artwork to make sure you didn't have a choice but to show up.
Good move.
Well, let's do this real quick before we get into it, because I want us to talk about what's going on with Freedome in his immediate future. Yes. But Jacole, why don't I go ahead and turn things over to you so you can tell us what's going on in the Globe. We'll come back to Freedome. At the Playhouse, come back to Freedome so you can tell us what's happening at the Globe. I'll let you know what's happening here at the Rep for this week. Jacole, why don't you go ahead and tell us what's going on?
Yeah, super quick, because I know we got a lot to talk about here tonight. So right now at La Jolla Playhouse, starting previews tomorrow, is Lempicka, a beautiful, stunning story about the artist Tamara de Lempicka going through her fall and rise and fall again. Just stunning musical by Rachel Chafkin, director of won the Tony Award for Hadestown, which many of you probably just saw at the Civic. Just really stellar creative team. Please come and check us out. Check out the website, lajollaplayhouse.org. Also, coming up right after Here There Are Blueberries, a partnership with Tectonic Theater Company, directed by Moises Kaufman. This is a never seen type of exploration into an album that was found that should have never been seen at the Camp Auschwitz of one of the following a number of the commanders and looking at behind the scenes of the people who created this horror. So that's what's going on immediately at the Playhouse. Just a little shameless shout out, a show that I directed with some local favorites, Rosina Reynolds, Kate Rose Reynolds, is being produced right now at Roustabout's Theater Company, Iron. Come check us out, running at Moxie Theater Thursday through Sunday until June 26th. This is a mother-daughter story about a mother who is serving a life sentence for killing her husband, and this mother and daughter is being played by a real mother and daughter. So all therapy will be billed to Roustabouts. Come check us out.
Thank you, Jacole. Freedom, what's happening over at the Globe, man?
Whoa, man, there's a bunch of stuff. We're starting off this week with our Globe for All tour, which will be touring Mala, a piece that originated in our Cheryl and Harvey White Theater. So it's a one-person show performance. This performance will be performed in either all English or all Spanish throughout San Diego. So that's a pretty big deal for us. The idea of Globe for All is to take theater to communities that don't enjoy ready access to the performing arts, or the theatrical arts, to be more specific. So we'll be going around to some places in the South Bay. We'll go into correctional facilities in East County. We'll also be going to Tijuana, and this is the first time in a lot of years that the Globe has been able to take a performance since Romeo and Julieta to Tijuana, and we'll be performing that at Sakut. So that's a really big, deal to be in this region and have real partnerships with the communities in Tijuana is something special. We've been doing a lot of our engagement programs there, our behind the curtain programs there, and this is just an opportunity to have a natural progression of where this relationship wants to go. We'll also be doing this week is a special week in the history of African Americans and Black people in the United States, because this is the week that's leading up to Juneteenth. And for the past 6 years, the Old Globe has been partnering with our good friends at the 4th District Senior Center in southeastern San Diego. So we'll have a great program that our good friend and colleague Gil Sotu, I hope a bunch of you all know Gil from around the community. He's a great teaching artist, a great playwright, a great artist, a great poet, and he's been curating this night of this day of events at the 4th District, and then again on our festival stage outside. So that's really exciting. We have on our main stages, our Globe stage, we just opened Taming of the Shrew, which is awesome and a great production. We opened up Saturday night, and if you haven't seen this take on Taming of the Shrew, I really encourage you all to get out and see that. We'll be opening Freestyle Love Supreme in a few days, so that's going to be exciting. It's just a lot of great work that's coming out at the Old Globe on Beckett by our good friend Mr. Noodles, also known as Bill Irwin. He'll be doing a piece that showcases his clowning skills. And talking about clowning skills, I'd be remiss in talking about Taming of the Shrew and the clown work that's being done on that stage. Taming of the Shrew is a really, looking at that piece, it has very serious problems that you look at, but our director has done a really great job of trying to update that piece and making it something that people today can look at and say, oh, I think I got something out of this that I didn't necessarily get before. So that's just some of the things I think that's going on at the Old Globe. Of course, we have programs that are sharing, their final sharing at some of the houses of incarceration. At Sentinel State Prison, we have our final presentation, our final sharing of the work that's been developed out there, looking at the life of Henry V and seeing how his life and the mistakes that he made early on impact him, but he's not defined by that. So it's really great work that's happening throughout San Diego across all different elements of our theater. And I also wanted to say, I just wanted to point out that it's quite fitting that this production that we have here, We Are Listening, it's been about 2 years since this program debuted. And I just wanted to. It's quite fitting that if we are ending, it's had a really great run, a really impactful run. And I always, when we talk about these programs that started around this time, and promotions that a lot of people, received around this time, I don't want us to ever forget, that all this work that came, and we talk about equity and we talk about that, but this work came out of the loss of life of a Black man. And I always want to put that at the center of this work, that we can make as much equity and as much space as we can, but it's all of these things that are happening on the back of a man's death, and I want to just take a moment to just reflect on that, that George Floyd, in the anti-Blackness that is prevalent in this society. This program itself, that Ahmed, you are the one who boldly looked out and said, we need to start this. We need to have a conversation around how anti-Blackness and how it affects us in the theater world, in the theater community. And I just want to give you your flowers right now, because none of this would be happening without you and your strength of will and pushing this through. So I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud of the work that you and then Jacole were able to add on to this. I'm the cat in the back. I sign the checks, but you guys do the hard work with that gets this out and gets this in front of people and bring people out here and shine a light on their stories, and stories that wouldn't be told without you all. So I just congratulate you all. It's been a pleasure to work on this and to work on this with you all. And that's it. We got a lot of people out here, y'all. So they got on, and I don't need to be yapping as much as I have. Yeah.
Well, real quick, Freedom, before I get to what I was going to say about the rep, while we're talking about the Globe, why don't we take a minute? We'll talk about it some more in a minute, but why don't you tell the folks what's happening with you and where you are going upon your exit from the Globe in a little bit?
The Globe has been a wonderful, wonderful home for me. I've been able to do things at the Globe that, it's been a very supportive community. Barry and Tim, the artistic and managing directors, have really been wholeheartedly getting behind everything that I've wanted to do. The Globe went from this place that I think was known as I've heard people tell me this, that the Globe was known as the white people's theater, and that it's gone from there to being, one of the most progressive theaters in the country, in terms of what we are doing and how we are trying to address some of the inequities that we've seen that are prevalent in the theater business. So I've really had a great time being there at a revolutionary time in the history of that organization, to be a part of, doing work in senior centers and homeless shelters and houses of incarceration, and working with people who are recently released or people that are going down that road. It's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be there. And it's with a lot of, it's a bittersweetness that I say that I'm leaving, because I have the opportunity to, one, be around, my family and return to New York and go to the place that really is my artistic birthplace, the New York Public Theater, or the Public Theater, the New York Shakespeare Festival, and to go there and have a chance at a time, like I went to NYU, but the Public Theater is my alma mater. That's where I really learned. I have 30-year relationships with people that are there, and to be able to go out there at this time when I think that the community, the theater community, is really hungry for leadership, and to be able to be put into a place where I can effectively be a part of that leadership, be a part of adding stability and actually a new era in the face of the public theater, is something that I'm just really profoundly humbled by and touched by, that Oscar and Patrick would reach out to me and say, hey, we trust you to come in and do some really great things. And I'll be there and handling a lot, following a great friend of mine, Shanta Thate, who's over at Lincoln Center now, following a great friend of mine and a visionary in her own right, but going there and working with some really stellar people, Joe's Pub and, Under the Radar, and working with, the mobile unit, which is, the same as our Globe for All tour, and working on, with Public Works and Shakespeare Initiative and Public Forum and all the great things, and having an opportunity to produce on that stage, at 425. It's just a dream come true. I came from greeting people at the Public Theater to now, having an opportunity to really just open doors for people. And that's what I think my life has been dedicated to, is that's opening doors and connecting the community with a great institution. And that's, I'm really thrilled with that. And that, to couple that with my wife going back to New York to run New York Theater Workshop, the place where Rent started, Hadestown started, and, other plays had a great run at, for us to be at those two great organizations in New York City at this time is just, tremendous. And once again, I'll say the word humbling, and a great responsibility that I'm excited to get to work on. But it is also bittersweet because I love the Old Globe, man. Like that's my company. Those are my friends, like that's why I'm part of that team, that Old Globe team. And I'll always be a part of that team because, that's just how it is here.
Well, Freedom, congratulations to you and Patricia. And, I'm glad we live in this world of the internet because we'll still be able to see each other and communicate. So, congratulations. I know you're moving on to greater things. And, but I know the Globe and Dago is going to miss your presence here, man. So, but congratulations, man. Like, it's well deserved. And I'm glad you're going back home, man.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. The big key is, like getting home and getting to see my family. There are people that don't know my kids, really important people in my life. When Orion was, first born, we left New York. So he's a SoCal kid, like he's a San Diego kid. So to get him into New York is going to be a quite an experience for him, but one that I'm looking forward to having him experience.
Well, no, we wish you well, Freedom, but you talked about the spirit of family and community, and that is what we are here for today. Yeah. And we have a lot of members of our San Diego theater community here to celebrate with us, to talk with us, to commune with us. So, Ahmed, I'm gonna kick it over to you to
Jacole with the segue. On. That was an expert segue, Jacole. You've been doing this. You guys do this.
Episode 43, baby, 43. Yeah.
Well, really quickly before I bring everybody else on, I do want to mention that we do have what will be our final performance tomorrow night here at the Rep. It is committed. It is the as far as in-person performances, it is the last in-person performance here at San Diego Repertory Theatre, part of the Jewish Arts Festival. It is written and performed by Lisa Robbins. It will take place tomorrow night in the Lyceum stage at 7 p.m. Just head on over to sdrep.org/jfest to get more information about that, some of the other online offerings that are coming about. But tomorrow will be the last in-person show here at San Diego Rep till another time. And I will be here tomorrow night, and I will still do what I do and welcome audiences into the space. And yeah, we'll do the thing that we do. And for those who don't know, I'm sure everybody who's watching this does know, the reason why it is the final performance is because San Diego Repertory Theatre is shutting its doors for whatever period of time it's going to be. The word I have in my mind that I keep being told is indefinitely, that it's not a certain amount of time, it just is what it is. That will be happening on Sunday, the 19th will be the last official day. Therefore, with this being the last episode of We Are Listening, I do want to go ahead and bring all of our guests on, and I'll go through a roll call as we bring everybody on, because we're ending this the same way we started it, with a panel of San Diego's best. And so I want to bring everybody on. Please, everybody, welcome to We Are Listening, Delicia Turner Sonnenberg, Monique Gaffney, Yolanda Franklin, and Rich Soublet. Y'all come on screen, come into the room. Everybody, please welcome our panel here. Again, I do want to go through a little bit of a roll call with everybody, because on this call we have Jacole, Delicia, and Yolanda, and myself, who were on the very first episode of We Are Listening. We have Monique Gaffney, who was on the second episode of We Are Listening, and then came back and did a special Giving Tuesday edition with me and Jacole. We have Freedom, who was on the second episode of We Are Listening, and we have Rich, who this is his third episode of We Are Listening. He first came on as a representative of the San Diego Black Artists Collective. So thank y'all for joining us tonight. It is greatly appreciated. I couldn't think of a better way than, to wind down the show. And just thank y'all for coming through as we wrap this thing up. I am going to turn at this point. I'm going to turn this over to Jacole because she has a little bit of better grasp on this than I do, as far as kind of where we're going with the. I'll jump in here and there, but she has a little bit better of a grasp, I think, right now, as to where kind of this conversation should go tonight.
Well, thank you, Ahmed, and I'm a little more separated from it all, so it's a little easier to be able to organize when you're not sitting deep up in it. Ahmed, as he said, we brought back some of San Diego's best and blackest. So what I want to really do is just and people who have deep histories with this community, but also with this organization that has been running for 46 years and has been a very important part of this community for a very, very long time. We all have long and in some ways complicated relationships with the rep and everything in it. So I really just, usually we start out this show with having folks just sort of introduce themselves, but y'all know us. We don't need to do that. So what I would love to do is just kind of go around and talk about where we at. How you doing? Where you at? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? This original and I want to say, I'm gonna start out to I want to make a toast to this group of individuals. I always say it on We Are Listening, y'all know. We'll talk about that over drinks later. We're gonna talk about that over drinks later. Well, we're gonna talk about that over drinks now, friends. So cheers to all of you. Thank you for joining us here. Yolanda, this was originally supposed to be an episode to talk about you and Common Ground. But so I'm gonna start out with you. How you doing? Where you at?
Yay! I'm good. I'm so good. I'm right now in the middle of rehearsal, blocking some actors. So they're anxiously waiting for me to return, but they're patient, and I'm just excited. Jacole, where do you want to start?
No, just kind of I want to take a temperature. Take a temperature of how we're feeling about everything right now, because it's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. It's
like. There's just so much going on, with the rep announcement and Freedom leaving, his wife leaving, that's really impacting San Diego. Freedom was our go-to, with the San Diego Black Actors Collective. And then, this was a mainstay for everybody. I'm not going to talk that long. And then everything out in the world, but then still we're making theater. So, okay. Well, right. I think I can say some stuff. I think I can. Can I say some?
Yes. But I'm gonna hold you there just for a second. Let's just.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold you there.
Dee,
how you doing? Where you at, Delicia?
I am doing, I feel like the answer to that question is kind of complicated. I am personally doing great. I'm in Arkansas and it's hot as hell here. But I'm working on a show by a Black female playwright that I think is going to be a major voice in American theater, Candace Jones. Remember that?
Sorry, I'll be right with you.
And at the same time, I am feeling complicated about my feelings around the rep are complicated. Yeah. That's how I am.
All right, we'll start there. Monique, how you doing? Where you at?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'm doing fairly well. Right now I am working on the last few weeks of my TCG fellowship with the Old Globe. So hallelujah, praise the Lord. I hope I make it. I got like 2 weeks around to play, you guys. So, give me some energy. Freedom knows. Okay, so I was very shocked and surprised given the circumstance with San Diego Rep, and I have more than one thought on the situation, but because it's one of my homes, like maybe my first home in terms of really professional theater. So there's a lot there. It's complicated, like Dee was saying. It's really complicated.
Yeah. No, same.
Yeah.
Same. Rich, what about you? How you doing? Where you at?
Personally, I'm thriving. You know, I ain't got a lie to kick it. I've been very fortunate and very blessed to be able to work in just about every theater in town. I was just up at Moonlight Amphitheater like last week, so we're getting farther and farther north now, and which is fine. And that's thanks in large part to a lot of the people in this room, like who have been saying my name in rooms that I didn't previously exist in. So I have to give major thanks and large shouts to honestly each and every single one of you has either said something nice to me about me to somebody, or has like sent me a heads up, somebody's gonna be calling you about some work. And that's what it's supposed to be all about, right? Lifting each other up and making sure that the people around you thrive. So I have to give all of y'all a great shout and great thanks for that. As far as where I'm at with the rep, I'm not shocked because and we Ahmed and I were talking about this earlier, but he wanted me to come here because I tend to see things from a slightly different perspective than everybody, which is quite literal because I'm using one of these things. I'm always surrounded by cameras, so they're always nearby. And people tend to forget that I'm right there when conversations are had. So I hear whispers and I hear things, and it's not 100% surprising to me. Yeah. And that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. It's hard. It's tricky because as Monique said, and Delicia said, like, this was my first home. Mm-hmm. I literally would not be where I am sitting right now. I would not be the director of arts engagement. I would not be on lists and top 10s and this, and that had I not had my very first home in a theater at the Rep and the opportunities that were given to me there. But as everybody has said, it's complicated. I think everybody on this call had a moment of, oh shit, but also, oh shit.
I do want to add, the Rep is the first place I saw professional theater when I moved to San Diego, like the very first. And it was Proof, which was co-directed by a human in this room.
Right, which is also complicated because it was co-directed with Sam.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Ahmed, do you feel like joining this space?
Yeah. Yeah, it's complicated, of course. Everybody in this room, I got the front row seat. It is complicated. I'm not, how we get down on here. I'm not going to come out here in front. I'm not going to come here in front like it's the end and I'm in kumbaya mode. It's not that. I'm going to say things I can say because that's what I do. Not happy with how a lot of things are going down. And that's just the honest truth. I don't think anybody is when their job is ending. So, but I didn't build this house by any means. I didn't build it, but I got the last 15 years in this house. And I walked into the Rep showing people to their seats. And then I started selling tickets. And then I started administering the software to sell those tickets. And then I started running the box office. And then I started doing the IT. And then I started doing the information systems. And then I was able to consult on a play here and there, and did this and did that and did some voiceover work and did some work on the website and came back and worked in philanthropy and came over to work back and take over the front of the house and some other administrative duties. So I've seen a lot here. I've seen a lot of changes. There's construction going on. Went through another phase of renovation before. So it's very complicated, and it's to add what Rich said, it is not surprising. But the way things have happened is surprising.
Yeah.
The speed with which some things is surprising.
Yes.
It's been hard, and this is something that I've stated in the meetings I'm talking about. I have had a problems at days being on leadership because my dad brought me into this thing as a worker. Like I watched my dad for 40 years. I watched my dad as a Black man right here on Broadway, a block from me, in the lobby of the Spreckles Theater, fight and do what was right every day. I mean, fight and do what was right for every type of person that walked through those lobby doors. For every type of person that walked through those lobby doors. From the actors, the performers, to maintenance workers, the delivery guys, the stage hands, the audience members. I watched him do what was right every day and almost not be listened to every day for 40 damn years. Like I watched it. It killed me, but I watched it. And so it was hard for me to be in leadership sometimes because I had a real close ear to what was going on with staff. Real close. Like really close. And I'll expound on some of that later, but yeah, it's very complicated. It's very difficult to watch how this is going down. It is very difficult to watch the amount of selfishness and effort that I've watched the production staff here at San Diego Rep, the box office staff, the marketing staff, and of course my guys, the front of house staff, to watch what they have done in spite of everything, COVID, construction, and other stuff, to watch what they have put up with, what they have done, and most importantly, what they succeeded at doing, because they did. If there's anybody who were at the Red, like you guys did, like you guys succeeded at what you guys went above and beyond and succeeded at your jobs. I watched you every day. So yeah, I'll leave it there. It's a lot.
I want to jump in there, Ahmed, and I appreciate you starting the conversation where it is. And I'm going to jump to Yolanda here because I know that you started with saying that you have some thoughts as well. I want to know a word that every person on this call has used thus far. Complicated. And We Are Listening has always been about telling our truth in a very respectful way, in our own ways. And I want that to continue. But one of the things that, a lot of us have said in separate conversations is it is hard to grieve what is happening. And I'm in mourning. I've worked at La Jolla Playhouse longer than I was at the Rep, but people still associate me with the Rep. People look at me and go, oh, that's San Diego Rep. That is a person that had a hand in changing things. So, I mean, things didn't work out the way that we wanted to, but I had my first real love at the Rep. That is, everything in me is deeply rooted there in this community, but it's complicated. And you can't talk about all of those things without talking about how complicated it is. And each one of us have different accounts of that and reasons for that word. And yeah, I want this to be a space of truth. I keep wanting to say I don't want this to be a grieving blah blah airing grievances whatever blah. That's not what this is a space to tell our truth. And I think that everybody here knows where our hearts are, where our home is. And I'll stop there for a second. And Yolanda, I want to kick it to you because I know that you're in rehearsal and this looks like it's going to go long and you might not be able to stay with us the whole time. So I just wanted to start with you. You said you have some thoughts at the beginning and I'd love to give you a place to share those. We can't hear you, Yolanda.
You know, it's you probably want to pass with me. It's just, my gosh, the amount of dirt and stuff online right now, and the conversations that are being had, the stuff that's being just plastered for everybody to see, and stuff that's coming out. I feel like I'm watching another trial happening, you know, and people are, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah. But the writing was on the wall. I don't know. I don't know what to say, because I don't have that deep relationship that Delicia had. You know, this man mentored her. I don't have the deep relationship that Monique had. You know, they could. You know, and you and Ahmed, I think I want to just stay silent.
Understood.
I just want to stay silent.
Understood.
Okay. Hey, Jacole, can I open it up real quick? Maybe to help provide some context of just how this thing right here got started.
Please.
We can kind of go from there.
Yeah.
And I thank you, Freedom, for bringing up what you did about George Floyd, because it's very important. It is very important because that is the genesis of this. And it goes so much into what we said here every week. It goes so much into what we talked about here every week. This particular space was started after the death of George Floyd, after the what I put in quotes, some of the racial reckoning. Not much of that there, but whatever, that's what they call it. This was put into motion after the death of George Floyd, and I will give Sam Woodhouse his credit. He is the one who started this space. He is the one who started this space. I don't know if he knew what he was starting. I don't know if he particularly knew what he was starting, but I think he might have had an idea of who he wanted to start it with. And you know, on the way to work one day, I got a call from Kim Heil, and you know, she told me Sam's idea about wanting to start, and it was just going to be a one-off. You know, it was going to be, hey, you know, he saw what was happening. He's like, hey, I just want to have this space where I can just hear what our family, our Black family and artists in town are talking about. Like, you know, I just want to have this space. I don't know if it'll go on, but hey, you know, can you do that? And, you know, I told Kim, like people have heard me say, I told Kim, I said, well, I said, there's two conditions in which I'll do this. There's only two conditions in which I'll do this. There will be no censorship of what we talk about.
Yep.
And no one else is going to curate the guests. And he was like, okay. And so that's where this started. And then we did that first episode. It was, you know, it was Jacole, Yolanda, Delicia, Michael Turner, Dahan Blevins, TJ Antonio Johnson, who's in the audience. I see him out there watching. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but we had a great talk, and it was eye-opening to everybody, including us, because we were now in this digital space where we could just let it go and we could talk. And then, okay, let's do another one. And so I was like, okay, I want Monique. Monique comes on, gives a master class on the history of Black theater, and just, okay, Freedome. Freedome comes on next. Me and Freedome talking. That's where me and Freedome talk about, both of us talk about our beginnings in this thing. And that's where the discussion and access came from, because we both talked about how we were young and we got into this. And it was like, yeah, but man, we needed a paycheck. like we needed to, like, we were trying to get into this thing, but we needed to work, you know, and then it went on. And then as we went on down the road, you know, Jacole, Freedome, and I talked, and I was like, you know, it became a partnership with the Globe and the Playhouse. And the more it went on, I was like, you know what? I don't want this to be a gripe session every week. I don't want this to be a gripe session. I want us to change the direction a little bit. And I want this to be a celebration and a revelation of who we are in this industry. I don't want this, like, we're going to gripe anyway. Right. I want this to be a celebration and a revelation of who we are in this industry. And hence came, like, dang, Jacole, we done came up with a lot of slogans during this thing. Hence came the thing, you know, we're not the other, we're the standard. We've always been here. You know, like we went on to that, and that's what it became. And we were able to bring on for Black theater photographers, agents, board members, administrators, we were able to cover the whole gambit. We were
casting directors.
We were able to cover the whole gambit of the Black professional experience in theater and performing arts, and to bring it at every angle. We were able to bring it from every angle, and that became like the most important thing for me. It was like, no, we are letting you know what you missed. We are letting you know what you have been blinded to. We are letting you know what the beginning of this thing has always been. We are letting you know why they called it the Great White Way and how it got there. We're letting you know what got stolen, what got taken, what got hidden, what got buried, and what's been here. And we're not fighting for nothing. We're not fighting for nothing. We're just trying to get you to understand we've been here and we've been doing this. This ain't nothing new. It's new to y'all. It ain't new to us. It's not new to us. It's not new to our folks. It's not new to everybody. It's not new. It's new to y'all. And so, you know, I just want to give everybody a little bit of the background about how we got to where this thing is right now. And again, like I told everybody, in the beginning, this has become a living conscious. This is here. This is here. Like, everything that's been going on here is here. Every lesson is here. Everything we talking about right now has been here in this space. The we are listening, the we is subjective, as Dr. Gray Carr always says. Who is we? Who's listening? Who's we? And what are we hearing? And so I just wanted to take a minute to kind of give that background for people who might not have known how we got to where we are in this platform today, and how now it's crazy how this is wrapping up this conversation with the rep at this time.
Yeah, Monique, Delicia, anything you want to bring into the conversation?
Go ahead, Mo.
I have a lot on my mind, but I'll say first, following up with this being like my home and being shocked just because, well, a couple of things. I think the first thing is that I don't know if it's because I've become somewhat disconnected in terms of the community. Like, COVID pushed me way back in terms of connecting with people. So that was one thing. And I say that because I had heard little bits and pieces through the grapevine, but I just didn't know that it had gotten this bad, for lack of a better word. And so, and thinking back about the rep, I did a little like Google search, right? Because I know my father had done several shows there, the late Dr. Floyd Gaffney. And I thought, well, how many shows did my dad do? Right. And so I looked back, and the first show he did was called Home by Sam Art Williams. And I was like, oh, it just kind of hit me right there in the heart. And I thought, yeah, this to me was my first home, even though like my father's always like my first home in terms of my experience of theater and all of that. But like, that was the first show he did in like 82, 83. And he did about 3 other shows. And I've had the great opportunity, I think, for me to get my professional start was at San Diego Rep. I think the first show I did was Doubt, directed by Todd Soublet. And
that was your first show?
It was. No,
I saw that show. I didn't.
Well, okay. Well, maybe Shaking the Mess Out of Misery with my dad.
Okay.
My dad told me, he's like, you're not a professional yet, but you're doing a show. Like that. Like, thanks, Daddy. Thanks. But I was like, thank you. So yes, the first first original show I did was on the Lyceum stage. Yes, and it was Shaking the Mess Out of Misery, directed by, like I said, my father. And I had a ball. I didn't know what I was doing. Then I ran off and I went to Columbia University. He was like, get it together. So anyway, I digress. But having that experience being an actor, like that was my home. I was like, here's where I'm like cutting my teeth, for lack of a better word, sometimes obviously through my father, and then a whole slew of directors as I'm figuring out who I am in San Diego, right? And so to hear that this is happening, I just, again, the word of the day, complicated. Because there is the legacy associated with my father, right? Because of the shows he directed, shows I had the fortune to be in. Mm-hmm. And then, and the shows, not just the shows he did with the rep, but just the shows he brought in through Common Ground Theater, which Yolanda can definitely speak more to, but just like, it became a home for me as an actor and a home even for my father as a director when Common Ground had no space, had no place to call home. It was like, can I do my play here? Right. And whatever negotiations he worked with Sam, whatever it may be, like he brought a number of shows there, right? Like Black Nativity. I could go on and on about the shows, but like when you look out and you see that your home is being taken away, like how do you react? Like there's just this whole bunch of emotional things that are going on, and I'm trying to make sense of it. But I have to say that being given the opportunity as an actor, again, to cut my teeth and also to speak to who I am as a Black person. And it took a while before I actually spoke up and said, this is what I think about your scripts and how I feel about the treatment of actors and different things. I definitely had to grow into that, but that's where it took root. And to the place where Sam was like, okay, I want your opinion. Can you talk about this issue? And even though it was directed in the vein of definitely African-American issues, which is fine, I could definitely speak to it. I was glad to have that place to do it because nobody else was offering it to me at the time. Right.
Well, and I think that you're speaking to something, Monique, that a lot of us have talked about that that a lot of us has talked about, because there were things that came to a head recently, especially with the cast of The Great Khan.
Right.
And what we realized, or what it was hard to, what happened was,
right.
We who are part of this community are so deeply a part of this community. And when you're a part of it, it's hard to see the flaws. And we excuse things, right? Because you're like, oh yeah, no, because I want to work there. I mean, how many of us, and bless his heart, but how many of us have said, that's just Sam. That's the rep. That's how they do things. That's a corner that gets cut. That's just how it gets done, because we're a part of this community, and because it's a community that we've been in and want to continue to be in. We go, that's just how that is.
Right.
But when you bring in a company of people who don't have that same attachment. And like you even just said, Monique, it took you a minute within, even with your status within this community, to be able to raise your hand and say, wait, but I have a question.
Right.
You know?
Mhm.
And this is a company that didn't have that same kind of attachment and that same, well, I guess that's just how they do things. They went, no, this isn't how you do things.
Right. Right.
And it made a lot of other people go, oh shit, no, that really isn't how you do things. That's not how you're supposed to do things, you know? And so it got conversations happening within the community of what do we accept? What do we put up with? What do we sweep under the rug? Because that's how it's always been done. But Delicia, I want to kick it over to you as well.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like Monique, the Rep was my first theater. Like Playwrights Project gave me my first directing gig in San Diego, but the Rep was my first theater home. And the reason that it's complicated for me is that Sam who was my mentor, is genuinely interested in people who are different than him, like truly, genuinely. And I think this is how the excuses happen, because that is true. But the listening part and the who is listening, as Ahmed said, isn't always fulfilled, right? And so yes, Proof, which was Rich's first play at the Rep, like I got to be a director on that, but I had to co-direct it. It wasn't until I had left the Rep and was a director separate from the Rep that I got hired. So this also adds to the complications. My first show back was on the big stage. And I remember on the first preview, Sam was leaving. And I was like, oh my God, where are you going? And he was like, the show is great. I don't need to stay. Which is a great, like my first show on the big stage. And the artistic director is like, your show is ready. I don't need to be here. You don't need me. Right? So that is the complicating factor. Right. Because it is like the big, it is the push and pull of like, I want to hear from you. And when you're good, I trust you. Right. What I felt at the time was when other people say you're good, then I will trust you. And turns out you're good. And now I don't need to be here. And so,
but I would be remiss, Dee, and I'm sorry to do this, but I would be remiss to talk about without bringing up what happened opening night of My Mañana Comes, because there is a certain level of trust until there isn't. And I don't know if we need to get into that because that deeply undermined you.
It did, except that then by that time I was strong enough, right? And what Jacole is referring to is Sam and I had a difference of opinion about the lead actor in My Mañana Comes. And on the final preview, that actor, I was like, what were you doing tonight? In the note session, I was like, you were yelling the whole time. And he was like, yeah, I'm sorry, whatever, right? And then it hit me, like, because of notes I had been given from Sam, it hit me. I was like, oh, you got notes from Sam. No, you only have one director. You don't listen to Sam. You listen to me, right? And what it did for that young act, because of course he listened to the artistic director because he wants to work there again.
Right.
And so then on opening night, what happened is that I felt like he didn't know where he was.
Right.
And the rest of the cast had to carry him. And it turns out that like that particular I don't know, like whatever. He didn't get dinged for it, but like review wise or whatever. But I felt like it put that young actor in a really terrible position to choose between like the leader of the institution and the director who's been with him every day. Right. And before George Floyd, because this is important, like I didn't talk to Sam about it. Right. Post George Floyd, that's not shit that I would let slide now. Because it put him in a terrible position.
It did.
Because I felt like Sam in that particular moment, Jacole is making me be real right now, had a specific view of what this young Black male role should be. And I was like, but there are different types of like the way, like that particular actor in particular, his anger wasn't hot, it was cold. And so I asked him, like, are you saying like, are you wanting like angry Black male? And he was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And still he had a conversation with my actor.
Yes. Yeah. And so again, it just, and
Which
it was mentioned here, power dynamics. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
I just no, right? I mean, but and it made me think if I had been a less secure, younger director, it would have been a terrible situation.
And that's the problem. And it was mentioned here in the comments too. Dee, you said it. Yeah, I was strong enough.
It's complicated.
But that's why it's complicated. I do want to acknowledge it is 7:06.
Yeah.
This is a full ass conversation with so much that has to go through. I do want to make sure that we get to at least, I want to come over to you, Rich, because you started this conversation by saying you see things differently. You see through the lens, and you are the person that people sort of forget is in the room sometimes. You can't forget when directors, when actors, you don't forget when we're around.
Yeah. Yeah.
But your job is to disappear into the background.
And I like to think I do it pretty okay. My experiences shooting at the Rep are only very recent. The first one being for Mother Road. And I won't be crazy detailed because again, you said we're at 7:07. I could go on all night. But it really struck me when we were there, literally on the side of the road doing photos for Mother Road. The manner in which actors were spoken to and assistants were spoken to from the artistic director of this organization. And especially in the climate that we are in, which is a phrase that all of us in this room, I'm sure, have heard many times over the past 2 years. And, I'm always hesitant I don't form an opinion about a person and that was my first in-person interaction with Sam. So I want to form an opinion on somebody based on my first interaction. But when I have another interaction that is similar in, one way or another, that's when I start to wonder. And that was when I was doing the actual production photography for that show. And he spoke to me in a way that I hadn't been spoken to by any other artistic director at any other theater in this town yet. And I was lucky that I felt comfortable, like Delicia said, comfortable and strong enough in my position as an artist to say, well, hold up, this is how I see it. Right. And I recognize that isn't a position that a lot of designers, a lot of actors, administrative staff can ever feel that they're in, because they're much closer to an institution. I'm an independent contractor, right? I'll find other work. It's all right. So I'm gonna say what I need to say. But I don't think I feel like it puts an undue burden on everyone in the room when it's the person who's not usually around that is the only person that feels comfortable pushing back against a position of power.
Right.
And when I'm seeing it happen to everyone else around me, and then it comes to me, and then I'm the one who gets to say, well, no, here's what I think from a position of strength. I take great issue with that. And the problem is that I don't get to stick around long enough to talk to people in the room or other people around and say, hey, by the way, this is what happened, blah, 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 because I do my work and then I'm gone. So, while I do get to hear everything and see everything, I don't get to say a lot, which is why I was very shocked. I was very surprised to hear about the experience that, and I know some of the cast of the Great Con is here in the room. I was very surprised to hear about the experience that cast and that crew had. Very surprised, because I feel like, and to some degree, I'm sure a lot of independent contractors feel this way. A lot of independent theater contractors probably feel this way. Is kind of like going over to a relative's house and they bring out the fine china, right? Someone else is coming into the room, so we got to be all on our best behavior. So when I was in the room for the production photography for that show, everything seemed like sunshine and rainbows to me. So I was very surprised to hear that was not the case after I left, which is, another part of being those set of eyes on the wall, is that sometimes you don't get to see things as they really are, because deliberately a veil is pulled over the reality and something different is presented to you. And that's not been my experience anywhere else.
And I want to just second, like, it's also sometimes when you are in the room that you don't see it until you have some separation. Like, sure. I think what Jacole alluded to, or right.
Yeah, absolutely. And my question, I think, for not just for everyone here in this room, but I guess for every sufficiently melanated artist, in San Diego theater, in theater at large, is how do we move forward and make sure that we are helping to facilitate and create spaces where people do feel comfortable to safely air grievances, whether it's with an institution or with an individual or with specific circumstances or not so specific circumstances. Like, we have to do better by the artists, especially by the actors who are in a large position of vulnerability, where they're asked to go out on stage and feel authentic feelings every night and come into rehearsal and bear themselves to the room. Like, we have to do better by them.
And Freedom, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot to kind of bring us home with the question that Rich really just put into the room, as an artistic leader, as a change maker, as somebody who is going to an institution, to a new institution, and is ready to, get boots on the ground. Like, how do we institute these changes? How do we make this an equitable industry, an equitable environment, all the things that Rich is just saying that I'm badly summarizing?
I want to say a couple of things. One, I'm saddened that San Diego's lost a theater, and lost an opportunity. I mean, there's people not working. Yes. Ahmed doesn't have a job. A lot of my friends are over there at that place, and they don't have a job. Yes. A lot of people won't have an opportunity to come through and learn the craft because of the absence of that place.
Right.
So yes. I'm saddened by that. I want to celebrate that Sam came, that Sam created a theater, that Sam created a space for Black, Latin women. Sam created a lot of spaces for people that didn't have that space in San Diego. And I celebrate him for that. And I'm also glad that it's closing in the way that it is underneath him, as opposed to bringing in another person of color to come there and have the place closed down because of the financial mismanagement, the decisions that he made, and if it was going to close, I would rather it close with him than to bring somebody else out here into this situation and have them disrupt their lives, and only to find out that the institution wasn't what they thought it was. And I've seen that happen over and over and over. And Black and Latin people and Asian folks are left holding the bag as though they didn't know what they were doing, and they really did know, and they've been thrown under the bus. So I'm glad. I'm torn in it. I wish that it was staying open, but if it's closing, I'm glad it's closing the way that it is right now.
Yeah.
I find it hard, and I've been fighting this fight for my entire professional theater life. Nobody has the right to disrespect you as an artist. There's plenty of low-paying theater jobs that you can go to and be treated well. To sit there and have to take crap from somebody that is in this old antiquated way of what an artistic director or leader is supposed to be and get away with it, those days are over. And I hope that they never come back. And it's on us to make sure that those days never come back. We have to hold into account the leadership that is there and make sure that that leadership is providing a space where people are being taken care of, where people are feeling as though they don't have to be struck back at, that their voices matter, that their voices are important, without a fear of repercussions for saying something. I strive to work in a world for that. I strive to be in a world where ideas aren't met with hostility, but with more questions, where questions are met with more questions. If you don't have the answer, there's nothing wrong with saying, I don't know.
Yes.
To feel like you have to have all the answers to something is part of white supremacist culture that we're all trying to get up from underneath. It's nothing wrong with giving people support, giving people their, it's all right with saying, I don't know what's happening right now, but I can find the answers for you somewhere now. And it's all right that this person has the answers. I don't need to come up with the best answers. My job is to be able to differentiate the good answers from the bad answers,
Right.
to be able to put something together.
Yes.
And making sure that people have an opportunity. It's not, you don't have to take all the credit in the room, and theater is really bad at that. Theater is really bad with not letting people get the credit that they have and the design work that they've done. Yeah. And that's something that I see is changing. And that's something that we have to demand and something that we have to figure out how to do. So, I know that all of you all are, feel very torn, and I feel torn in a certain way because I see the collateral that's happening. I see my friends that are going to be unemployed, and that's hurtful and that hurts, but I really want, a place where the genius of Ahmed is celebrated, where when he comes in and says, hey, this is a hole that you have down the street. If you keep walking in it, you're going to fall in. And that his word, his expertise is valued. And so when I look at theaters that will exist in the next, 10 years, the next 20 years, they're going to be theaters that are, one, responsive to their communities, and one, change the way of operation in how they interact with their artist base. And that's from the greeter all the way up to, the associate artistic director or the director, the artistic director, or the person that's doing, that's washing clothes in the back. It doesn't matter. It's how we treat all of those people and see their humanity. So I'm excited for what the world puts in the place of San Diego Rep. Hopefully it's a Moxie theater, or something else that's there, but it's a theater that's really looking at, how are we working together to use theater as an experimental place to change some of the things that we see in society, starting with the climate of the organization itself. How are we using theater to set the tone for what a great workspace looks like, what an equitable workspace looks like? Let's figure that out. Let's figure out how to take this art form that's thousands of years old and make it into something that can show the way for people to really behave in all throughout America. And I think that's a great place to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Freedom. You're so absolutely right, because we're the leaders in so much of it. My sister laughs because she's in corporate America in trade shows, and they're just now starting to introduce pronouns into their conversation.
Right.
And she's like, my sister's worked in theater and she's told me about this 3 years ago. Y'all should be ready, you know. But we are leaders in it. So Ahmed, I'm gonna take it to you to close this out and bring us home. But I do want to make a comment to Susana Paredo's comment that other theaters in San Diego must be feeling anxious right now. I can only speak to the theater at which I work, but I do not feel anxious. I feel a new sense of responsibility because, as it has been said here, San Diego Rep was a place where artists could get their sink their teeth in, where they could get their hands dirty, where they could get their feet wet, whatever fucking analogy you want to use right now. It was a place where people could go in and do the work. And our local actors, our local designers, our local artists could work at the Rep in not associate positions, but in lead positions. We all had that experience. And to me, I feel a new sense of responsibility as a leader at La Jolla Playhouse, as a casting director at La Jolla Playhouse, as a member of the artistic staff. We have a renewed sense of responsibility and obligation to this community. And I'm saying it here because I've already said it in artistic meetings, in meetings at La Jolla Playhouse, and we're already starting those conversations about how we can do that. So I don't know about the anxiety of the other theaters, but I hope that the Globe feels that same sense of responsibility as the equity theaters in town, as the places where, So I'll stop there. But Ahmed, I want to kick it over to you to bring us home for this.
Yeah, I'll thank you, Jacole. Thank all of you. Just to go off to kind of the question that you were asking, like how do we move forward, right? How do we empower? Like I'm just looking at the chat. I'm looking at Juliana. I see Michaela. I see Paige. Like this was her first theater gig out of college here at the Rep. You know, I'm seeing Candace. Like, how do we make this, you know, how do we make this a space for us going forward? Well, the truth in the world, the truth, the dark truth is that like power is never given. It's never given. It's never given.
And how do you get it, Ahmed?
You have to assert yourself and take it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in forms of violence. I mean, be so good at what you do and know what you're talking about that nobody can argue with you. Yes. And even if they do argue with you, know deep down that you know what you're talking about so good that you can take a minute and shut up, because if you are wrong, it'll come back around to you that you were wrong.
Yes.
But if you are right, you might see some things happen that you didn't want to see happen, yes, but you knew they were going to happen. And so I think for us, I think number one, we're doing it in this space because, as we all know on this call, on this space right now, and for everybody watching this space right now, we know there are invested parties watching this space right now that do not like this conversation. But I know that every time we crack this thing. I know that every time we turn on the microphones.
Yeah.
Because I know us. And I know what we're gonna say. And I know what we've been saying. And you know, I guess I got this because I've fallen flat on my face so many times. I have fallen flat on my face professionally and personally so many times. I have disappointed so many people in my life so many times. I have lost everything a few times. But I always, look, my mom and dad came out the swamps of Alabama with what they had. And my dad in the Navy and my mom, they worked themselves up the eastern seaboard, across the top, up into Alaska, and down here to San Diego, where they know they couldn't afford to live. But we've been here my whole life. and they never took anything from anybody to do it. They hustled, they grinded, sweat equity. They worked it. They did it. They did it for me, my brother, and my sister. They did it. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I always walk in when I got into these rooms, even though I felt for a moment I didn't belong in the room, even if I felt the imposter syndrome, even if I felt all that, didn't matter because I was in the room. It didn't matter. I was there. And so my thing was, I'm going to say what I got to say. They can't take me back to where I was before. And so for all the young people on this call who are making their way into this industry, because there's still probably, look, all this, we passed this direct. Nah, it's all here. Come on, go through Twitter. Come on, look, we don't even got to get into the race of it. The student tickets for the damn Tonys were $290.
$250. I meant they were $250. They were $250.
$290 student tickets.
They were $250.
$250. Okay, I'm sorry. I stand correct. $250 for damn student tickets for the Tony. This is an industry thing. This is an access thing. This is a thing that me and Freedome's conversation, yeah, it was two black men talking, but it's always been, and I had someone ask me that, well, wasn't your thing about getting black kids into the theater? No, my thing was about getting people into the theater. People who couldn't afford to get into the theater. People who didn't have access to the theater. People who didn't have access to the internships. People who had to make a choice between an internship and working at McDonald's because they needed to pay the rent, or they needed to help their mom and dad, or they needed to pay off this college. They needed their books. That's what it was. It was for access, because there's access for everybody, and there's access for everybody that includes the black folks.
Right.
And so it's like, my thing is, I'm telling these young, say what you gotta say. Don't worry. Don't worry, you're fine. You're gonna be fine, because there's people on this call who are gonna pick you up, and they're gonna find a place for you, and they're gonna advocate for you, and your peers are gonna advocate for you if you all keep it real with each other. Do not be afraid. I've said this since we started this thing, and I'm gonna say it again. You get in those rooms, they're not smarter than you. They just been there a long time. They benefited from knowing the system. They're not smarter than you. They're not smarter than you. Every innovation has come by somebody who had the voice to step up and say something in a room with people who thought they were smarter than them. And so I'm telling all these young people who are listening and are seeing, this is education. This is educational for me. I've been at this place for 15 years. Trust me, I learned a big lesson. And some of you have watched it in real time. You've watched me divest myself section by section, because I finally learned the lessons. And each time I divested myself from a certain thing, I got better at another thing.
Yes.
And I got closer to who I really was. And then I got closer to being able to talk to people I needed to talk to and help people I needed to help. And now people are helping me.
Yeah.
And so the thing, how we keep this thing going, is we do exactly what we're doing. We keep it real with each other. We hold people in power accountable. I don't care. What are they going to do to you? Fire you?
I ain't been fired yet. My mouth is loud as hell.
Yeah. Likewise. And one thing I want to say, because this is something that I've learned recently. I was talking to Nataki, who now runs Oregon Shakespeare. And we were both talking about being people who can negotiate rooms.
Yes. Yes.
Who could negotiate. And Nataki said something to me that I realize is the absolute truth. That when you are, and that's something for us on this panel to think about, but personally, I've been thinking about in this context of tonight, like, when I negotiate a thing without confronting it, like what Jacole made me talk about tonight, because I didn't confront it at the time, I am able to be successful because I know how to negotiate rooms. But that means the people who come after me who might not be competent enough to negotiate those rooms, like, that is the responsibility I now feel.
Yeah.
Like, instead of negotiating, now I confront.
Yes.
So that the people coming after me don't have to negotiate. And I think that that's a really important, because not everybody feels that empowerment. Yeah.
Well, just being respectful. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. This was a really, really powerful conversation. We're at 7:30. Thank you for all of the listeners who have stayed with us and continue to comment. I know a lot of those folks are people who are working at the rep, are very attached to the rep. This is where we're at. And I always end each show with saying thank you for listening. But I beg you, keep fucking listening. Keep listening to the people around you and keep speaking. Keep speaking up. Be an advocate for yourself. Be an advocate for others. Be an advocate in this space. Speak up. Show up. Speak up. And keep listening.
And just a couple of things I want y'all to stay on. I'm just going to keep y'all for a couple more minutes because, besides tomorrow night will be a utility night for me. I'll be, working, doing what I do. I'm pretty sure this is the last public thing I'll say being an employee at San Diego Repertory Theatre. And it's very important. In the press releases and things that have gone out, and first I want to say thank you to everybody that I've met in these 15 years that have come through San Diego Repertory Theatre. There's just relationships that have come on, just us talking here tonight, we have all come out of this place to go spread our wings and do other things. And this is why this talk is so important, because this is such a tight-knit community. When the former director of community for Testatura, who runs our ticketing system and the system at the Playhouse and the Old Globe and so many other around the country, when he came for a visit, I don't know how many years ago, he came for a visit, and this is a guy who travels the country, theaters all over the country and into Europe. He said that this was the most tight-knit theater community that he had seen in all his travels. That this theater community was the most tight-knit in its actors and organizations and the most cooperative that he has seen in all his travels in the United States and in Europe. And that says a lot. The thing I want to say is that, the numbers out there it's been maybe 330 plus performances in productions in San Diego Rep history. And that is a spectacular milestone, but there's a piece of the story missing. And the piece of the story missing is the rentals. The piece of the story that's missing is the community rentals. And the children that I have literally the last 15 years seen grow up. I'm talking about from BBYT to CYT to Transcend Dance, going back to Culture Shock, going Arms Wide Open. I can keep naming and naming and naming youth theater companies and dance companies to where I have watched children grow up on the Lyceum stage that have come through this building. Parents that I have seen take their kids from elementary school into high school on this Lyceum stage. The partnerships that we have done with SCP, all the children that I have seen, all the community partners, all of the artists that have hung their artwork and pieces in this gallery that I'm a couple of feet from. The Latinx Festival, Kumba Festival, the Jewish Arts Festival, all the culture that has come through these doors. I have sat here and from the last 15 years, putting those things on sale, helping get these people to their seats, everything. Susanna's on the call, my ex-rep TV partner. We did a damn TV show out of this thing every opening night. Just the amount of people that this affects, just the amount of people who have come through these doors. And that just needs to be said, how much of an impact that is. This closing is going to cause ripples. It is going to cause ripples. It is causing ripples now. It is going to cause more ripples when the doors close officially. because more people are going to talk and get together, and it just is what it is. I ain't going to front. I'm not going to sit here and do that. I ain't been fronting since I've been here. I'm not going to start now 4 days from walking out the door. Yeah. It's just important that we understand when you have these type of opportunities and when you have these venues, and I'm going to talk to some Black folks in the theater community out here too, quit faking the front. Quit faking the front. All you're doing is trying to grab the power that somebody else you keep saying has been abusing you with, but you're doing the same thing once you get it. Stop faking the front. You're not helping. You're hurting. The importance of this space, of this building, and like I said, I've been telling y'all, it's like global warming. Look, the earth is going to be fine. It's us who's going to be out of luck. This whole footprint here is being remodeled. This theater is being remodeled. The lobby looks beautiful. The theater's going to be real done. There's going to be stuff on these stages. I just don't know who's going to be operating. The building is fine. The Lyceum theaters that my mama walked me up and down this street watching Horton Plaza be built, it's going to be fine. The building is going to be fine. It's the spirit of the people that get affected. And it's how people remember. It's how people remember you treated them when the door is closed. It's important. It's important. It's important for businesses and theaters to understand. It's important to understand how people remember you when you close the doors. And so, again, I just want to say, with all the difficulties that's gone on this year, yeah, there was COVID. Again, you know what? We got everybody in and out of this building safety. That's including Kumbah Festival. We got everybody in and out of this building safety. Not one COVID case came from this audience or to this audience. Yeah, construction is a bitch. There's a lot going on down here. If you ain't been downtown in a while, yeah, Horton Plaza looks crazy. You know what? We got everybody in and out of this building safety with not one incident. Not one. I take pride in that. I take pride in the whole crew that came on here, from Kate to Fiona to Marco to Skylar to Joshua, who I just hired 2 weeks ago. To win, like, props to you guys for getting it done. So I'm sorry. I can't roll with all that. We got it done. 2 weeks ago, we sold out the stage with Transcendence. The week before that, we sold out the stage with Tap Fever Studio. Before that, we sold out with Art of Elon. We're going to sell out this Jimmy Dore show. I don't know who's going to work it, but it's going to sell out. I don't want to hear all that. People get things done. People who are invested and got pride get shit done. They get it done. And for everybody who's going forward in this business, if you're a manager, a director, or whatever, you got staff under you, those people are in your care. They're not just your employees. They are in your care. They are in your care. They matter. Their lives matter. I've spoken to it episode after episode. Cultural empathy. If you don't got it, your organization will fail. If you don't have true cultural empathy, not to check the box, not for it to look good for the gram, not for the grant money, and not for the claps on the back. For when you go to sleep at night and know you took care of people. It's the bottom line of this whole thing. It's the bottom line. So I just want to give a shout out again to everybody who busted their ass to make this run do what it needed to do. As far as I can, my apologies to the people who just came on to a job to have it taken from them. The people who uprooted and moved. This is important. I don't give a damn after this point who's mad at me for saying what I'm saying, because if they mad at me for saying what I'm saying, I'm probably not going to see them after this anyway. Shout out to all of you who sacrificed to come here. This was a difficult situation. Shout out to all of you who stayed here in the hope of something else where you could have went somewhere else. This is real life. This is beyond these damn press releases. It's beyond it. Yeah. So again, I just want to say thank you to all those people. And just to be completely honest, I know there's an event happening here on the 20th, on Monday night. I know there's invitations sent out about the toast and to celebrate the whatever, and all the artists and colleagues who come through here. I get it. I understand it. It should be some type of celebration. I feel you. Have a drink for me. I cannot be there. I'll catch all y'all on the street. See me at the theater. See me in the bar. Buy me a Jack and Coke. We'll talk about it. I can't be there. I can't be there in good conscience. Too many people working hard right now. It's too many people this is affected going out the door. It's the day after we're getting laid off, and it's Juneteenth. Can't be there. Can't be there.
Understood.
So I just want to say I love y'all. I respect y'all. Again, we are not the other.
We are the standard.
We are the standard. We've been here, and we're going to continue being here. So I just want to thank all of you who have tuned in to all 43 damn episodes, over 60 guests, a couple of episodes where I was just running my mouth about Sesame Street and Lorraine Hansberry and Paul Robeson and all them. Thank you for letting me run my mouth. But it's all been important. It's all been education. And I know Jacole will say this, we have learned so much in these conversations from talking to people like everybody in this call, from talking to Sheldon Epps, from talking just the amount of what we got in to feed ourselves on this trip. Like, I think y'all, this is, I guess y'all can tell this was very important to me. And I did put in a lot of work to this because I felt it was important. I felt this was something I saw the whole time I've been in theater. The space I was in, there wasn't anybody in that space. The only other person I met in an administrative box office space was Nikki Cooper back in 2012.
Who is sitting in my living room right now, by the way.
What's up, Nikki?
She just walked through. Shout out to Nikki Cooper on We Are Listening. She was a guest on episode number 12. Ahmed says, what up, Nikki? I don't know if you heard it. We just got a hey.
Me and Nikki walked into a Tessitura conference of like 1,300 people, and there was like 4 Black people. So with all that being said, I'm gonna shut up, stop running my mouth, let y'all do what you got to do and enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Just thank all of you from just the bottom of my heart. And just it's been a wild ride in this building. It's been a wild ride being underground for damn 15 years. But it's all good. I'm gonna land on my feet. It's not the loss of the gig that bothers me. It's the way it's being lost and the people who are losing it and the way they're losing it. That's the sting for me right now. So again, thank y'all. Again, I am going to fight to figure out what happens with these episodes to make sure that somehow they stay in perpetuity somewhere, somehow, some way.
Oh yeah, no, that's the blessing of the internet. They're on the YouTube. They're not going anywhere on La Jolla Playhouse's podcast pages. I don't know what's happening to the reps pages, but no, this shit is perpetuity. This lives on. God bless the internet.
Y'all can listen to them in podcast form on Spotify. Just search We Are Listening. These are, if you have not watched this, go back and listen to these episodes. Go back and watch these episodes. Go back and listen. Go back and watch. And I see Dia out there. And just one more thing before I shut my mouth, Jacole, remember about a year ago when Dia and Osborne were on here, and Dia, we made a small clip of it. Dia said, a year from now, it was basically paraphrased that things are measured.
Yes.
Efforts are measured. And she said a year from now, we'll see what's going on. We're about a year out from that.
Wow. That's huge.
And I'll let the mic drop on that one.
Thank you. And yeah, Susanna, let's talk about hosting on Vanguard. Let's see what we need to do about that. Ahmed, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for starting this space and allowing all of us to be a part of it. Freedom, thank you for coming on board with us. Thank you to Sam Woodhouse for creating this space. Thank you to Chris Ashley and Barry Edelstein for saying, unabashedly fucking yes to creating this space. Thank you to the 66 plus guests who have been with us for 43 episodes. This is not the end, y'all. This is a beginning. This is a new beginning for a lot of things. And I thank you for listening. And I beg you to continue to listen and continue to speak. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you all.
We out.
We out.
Jack and Coke, y'all. That's what I like.
Lightly melanated, but hella black.